we're going to talk about Avengers Endgame and some big spoilers. Not the traditional way, but just warning you if you're going in, there's going to be big Avengers Endgame spoilers. So stop this video now. Okay? Nothing to do with the spoilers, just, an impressive threat. Right. Okay, so Avengers Endgame kind of came out this week. It had some big storytelling decisions dropped in the movie from the Russo brothers. One of those nothing will ever be the same again moments that kind of follow up on the events of Infinity War. And thanks to a certain action by the Hulk, half the living population returns 5 years after they've been dusted. So it was a win. But while the film kind of looked at the implications of the original loss, there was very little about everyone coming back. So there were a few issues that might have resulted. And we're probably just kind of probing the surface here, but feel free to add your own observations over on Bleeding Cool. Okay, let's start. Marriages. All those people, 3.5 billion of them, declared dead. Many partners will have remarried, started new families, and suddenly, bang! The partner comes back again. Most countries, the time for missing people to declared legally dead is about 7 years. But in this case, 3.5 billion people just turned to dust, many in full view of others. So they'll just have been definitely dead. So for those declared dead, the marriages will be null and void. Even if for them, a second has passed, you suddenly, bam, and everything in your life has changed. This might be just as traumatic as it was for people losing all those people. But this is only just one of many contracts that'll be at issue. Contracts in general, fixed term contracts will have expired, healthcare plans, jobs, pension contributions, pensions, education, and the provision of education, television subscriptions, mortgages, phone contracts, tenancy leases, visas, immigration visas, for the all these contracts from the big to the little. Some will have been taken on by others, some will have expired. Those declared dead after being seen to have dusted will have had all those contracts voided. Others waiting to be declared legally dead after 7 years or whatever, now may be liable to issues raised by their absence. Clearly, government legislation will have been clearly needed initially around the world, maybe to declare legally those who are dusted as dead straight away, and new legislation will be needed in order to help the returning. Obviously, Hawkeye's wife's mobile phone was on pay-as-you-go, and Hawkeye took it after she was dusted and kept it in a drawer, and now she just needed to quickly plug it into a socket, recharge briefly, and thankfully, Hawkeye kept paying the electricity bill for the house while he roamed the earth seeking revenge as Ronin. Maybe a little bit dodgy, that one. But what else in general? Property, possessions, and wealth. With billions declared dead, their properties, possessions, wealth will have been passed on and inherited, or if no inheritors have been found, taken by the state. Governments will have had massive windfalls as a result, including that of inheritance taxes, and so there'll be a lot more money around and a lot fewer people to spend it on. So all sorts of projects and lifestyles will have been funded. Inflation will also have increased massively, and those who return who were not declared dead for whatever reason, they may have recourse to claim these back. Those who were officially dead will not. So basically, poverty for the returning half is kind of going to be quite extreme. Although, on the other hand, some people will no longer have to pay off their student debts or their mortgages. None of them will be in negative equity, maybe, unless those debts will be passed on to the surviving relatives. Oh, it's going to be fun. Talking of contracts and the law, there's the legal definition of age here, which usually has not been that controversially measured on when you were born to when you are now. But for half the population, you're going to have to minus 5 years. Otherwise, it makes so many other things really, really stupid. You're going to have 13-year-olds who are able to vote, sign up for the army, smoke, give consent to all sorts of things, while unable to get a free high school education. Now, trailers for Spider-Man Far From Home indicate that not only Peter Parker, but all his memorable classmates, MJ, Flash, Ned, they must have also been snapped and now also returned, but they're still at school, and that's fine. The legal definition of age has to be redefined for those who are snapped in order for them to continue their education as they are, or even use passports to go to Europe. Well, still at least Cassie Lang can now be a stature in Ant-Man 3 or Young Avengers or whatever we get next. There's that, I suppose. Um, but actually think about the politics of the whole thing. Those in power who are snapped may not respond well to returning to find themselves out of power, as well as pocket. I mean, let's be fair. If Donald Trump was snapped, he's gonna be really pissed. No second term, no remaining term, and all his money's gone, and now owned by his relatives, who might not be that keen to give it all back. His wife may have remarried. Who to? I don't know, but whoever it is, he'll now be quite rich. So all sorts of things. Anyway, I mean, it's, what else? I mean, will Brexit have been put on hold with a much bigger emergency? That's a good thing. I mean, national emergency will have been passed all over the globe. We may have seen more of a move towards dictatorial power as people look for security and kind of comfort in a time of such stress. Elections may be put on hold. We may have all sorts of dictatorships that have risen up as a result. Also, troops on the streets dealing with riots as scared populations look for scapegoats. And think about all the conspiracy theories that have been started. Well, I mean, okay, enough people aren't going to buy the official Thanos explanation. I mean, would you? No. So for many, the snap will have been seen as the rapture. People called to God by heaven, leaving behind the unworthy. You have a real left behind moment that will obviously lead to an explosion in religious belief, intolerance against those who believe something else even more than we have now, as well as a bunch of self-flagellation, penance, puritanism, and witch hunts. Everyone returning will dent some of that, I guess. But religious bodies tend to have a hold on whatever they've managed to land grab, even as circumstances change. And also, let's be fair, some people aren't going to buy any such explanation and will insist that all 3.5 billion people were actors and have been hiding out in government bunkers for the last 5 years. For some reason. Maybe because to inspire all these dictatorial governments that have now seized control and, taken everyone's guns. Whatever. So there's that. There's something else that's been bothering me. When people were dusted, they were dusted along with their clothes. But we know that electrical items, such as phones, I guess, and definitely pages, they survived somehow. They were dropped on the ground. When Hulk did that, did he bring everybody back clothed or naked? I don't know. I mean, either way, their fashion sense will have dated, so there's that. But I do think 3.5 billion people returning naked will have exacerbated the situation. Talking about how they actually come back, I mean, that's another thing. Mid-air reappearances. I mean, half of all airplane pilots and passengers will have been dusted. Now, thankfully, most planes have 2 pilots, so most planes may have stayed in the air. Only unlucky ones where both pilots were dusted and no cabin staff or passengers could fly the planes would have crashed. Those on ascent and descent at the time would have most been at risk. That's still going to be a lot of damage. All the flight control staff, half of them went too. But returning anyone in the air, or I guess halfway across the sea if they were on boats, will have reappeared there. So the world would be full of people crashing from 30,000 feet into the ground, or drowning in the oceans. Those on double-decker buses or on trains might have sustained minor injuries when they reappeared, but those that were in roads or in the way of trains, would have been hit by traffic as they suddenly reappeared on the roads. They weren't as lucky. So basically, there'll be worldwide carnage after the Hulk did his snap. And for those who reappeared, they could have reappeared within objects that weren't there previously, and that'd be a bit messy. A fair few people might have regretted putting in that conservatory after their husband died, only for him to suddenly reappear between the frames, sliced in half, and then for the passengers of Air Flight 151 to come smashing down through the glass ceiling, especially if they're naked. So we really have a lot to think about here, possibly too much. Now, so we're not going to like this. There's the environment. I mean, we did learn in Endgame that the whale population was returning. Nevertheless, a reduction in half of human consumption may have been what the planet needed. The long road to reverse of climate change may have just begun. The use of fossil fuels will have plummeted. I mean, alternatively, governments may have stopped addressing climate change as they suddenly feel no need with half the population. Also, a planet deprived of half its population will have had an incentive to increase its population, and reproduction rates may have increased. Having a global baby boom as parents deprived their children try again, and suddenly we've got a lot more kids. And of course, this is going to be so basically when they return, 3.5 billion people return, we may have a population that'll be more like 9 billion than 8 or 7.5 or whatever it's going to be around. And this, of course, is true of all life forms on the planet. The ones that breed to the capacity of their living area. And within 5 years, and with less human interference, I mean, the insect population may have recovered, and now has suddenly increased by another half, without possibly the resources to sustain it. Although, you know, for flies, maggots, I guess all these crashing dead bodies all over the place will give them a bit of a dead meat to, you know, do the stuff with. So, yeah, mosquitoes as well. Okay, there's going to be a big natural mess with everybody returning. That's what we're saying. And yeah, it could be apocalyptic, really. Again, I did a theory about, you know, whether what the Avengers did was as bad as Thanos, and I concluded that it was 4 times as bad as Thanos. The paperwork may be making it about 5 times. Well, this maybe make it 6 times. We'll add it onto the tally of the Avengers' actions. Anyway, I would certainly suggest don't get rid of all those headstones quite yet. Some of them we may need to reuse. What else can we talk about? Well, we saw counselling being used in the film, where how people were coming to terms with what had happened with the snap from Infinity War. You're going to need quite a lot of counselling for all the people who've returned as well, I would say, to find the bit of their world destroyed, everybody else has moved on. Captain America was urging people in his counselling group the need to move on, even though, you know, he clearly didn't and couldn't, and the first chance he got, he went back in time and didn't move on, or allow Peggy to move on. That wasn't happening for Cap. But, you know, for the there's going to be an awful lot of counselling for people who found their lives were destroyed. You know, there you are, walking along, you turn to dust, you appear from dust, and you are no longer married, your wife is married, your kids, or your wife or your husband, or your kids have grown up another 5 years, some of them are now adults, and you've lost all your money, all your possessions, all your wealth, everything you had, you know, your comic collection, that's gone. And other people have got it, and people who don't want to have it, and some of it's just been spent on the process of this all, and what money you might be able to get back has now been made worthless by inflation, which was huge. So yeah, gonna be an issue. Basically, only people who had gold and buried it somewhere only they know. So pirates will be fine. There we go. Pirates are gonna be fine. They don't really bother with families anyway. So in the entire world, pirates will be fine. So yay for pirates. Of course, all this is happening everywhere across the universe, not just Earth. So Captain Marvel, gonna be a bit busy. So yeah, these are just a few thoughts about how Avengers Endgame may play out if, you know, they look into it. How much the Spider-Man Far From Home and how much the new series of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to even touch on any of this, I have no idea. But yeah, if you have any other thoughts about how this might affect the world, do feel free to add them on the Bleeding Cool comments. I'm interested. I think I've only just touched the surface here. I'd like to get some, you know, lawyers, political people, other people just engaging. And of course, it is just a film. But, you know, part of the point of such films is that we can have this kind of discussion and talk absolute nonsense about the real life impacts of fictional characters in a crazed universe full of aliens and gods and magic and impossible science. So, you know, maybe that's it. Maybe Tony Stark invented something that made everything fine for everyone and did all that because, you know, he's quite clever. Will that have worked? No idea. So, yeah, there we go. If you've got any thoughts, please let me know. And maybe I'll do another article on Bleeding Cool about just this.